I'm Vicky Ford. I'm one of the Conservative Party's candidates for the European elections on the 4th of June. I'm standing here outside a fire station that's very typical across all of rural East Anglia. And I'm here because I wanted to tell you my concerns over the European Working Time Directive. Now, as a doctor's wife and coming from a family full of medics, the last thing I want is for people involved in patient care or emergency service to be working long or dangerous hours. But I also don't think that we should be told by Brussels exactly how many hours a week we can work. And the issue for rural fire services has been one good example of why the proposed Working Time Directive, one-size-fits-all legislation from Brussels, just doesn't work in our local services. In the countryside, in areas like this, many of our fire stations are manned by what we call retained firemen. They are firemen or firewomen who often have other jobs but voluntarily put themselves on a rota to help their community in the case of emergency. Now, you can imagine that if that person has already done a full week and then happens to be on call when the fire comes in, now how can they tell the fire service that no, they can't go out tonight because they've already done the 45 hours that week prescribed from Europe? Now, we're the only country in Europe who has this sort of service. The benefit to it is because we pay our retained firefighters for the hours that they do. I feel really passionate about this issue. I've been to Suffolk, where I've met a very senior surgeon who's told me in hospitals that they consider the European Working Time Directive the single biggest risk to emergency surgery in this country. Because again, you have an on-call system. Nobody wants the junior doctors to work dangerous hours, but they also know that to train junior doctors, they have to see a certain number of emergency operations, and you can't predict when the emergency is going to happen. So it's a really big issue for our hospitals. I've also been to meet with the head of the fire service in Norfolk, where all bar 2 of the fire stations are manned by retained firemen. Now, they point out that recruiting firemen in local areas, especially in rurally isolated areas, is very difficult these days because of aging populations in rural areas. So just saying it's okay, fire service, you can recruit more people and meet the 45-hour week, doesn't actually work. These sorts of decisions should not be made in Brussels. They should be made locally. Incidentally, when we're talking about politicians, I think it's really important that you know that these decisions about working time aren't just being taken by bureaucrats in back rooms, but were voted upon by your members of the European Parliament. And whilst the Conservatives voted against this legislation, it was the Labour members, including our Labour representatives here, who helped to push it through. At the moment, fortunately for our fire service and our other emergency workers, let alone other businesses, we've managed to sort of stall the negotiations so that hopefully this decision is kept in the long grass for now. But it will come back again, and it's Conservatives in the European Parliament who's saying let these decisions be made on a national and a local level and not on an international level.